Hey, it's me, Calder. I know this channel is pretty small and it's still kinda new, but I really want to put videos on here of all the games that I like to play. So I know mostly it's been a lot of Smite, but this time I want to do something different. I really enjoy playing Pokemon and doing like Pokemon challenges, so hopefully with it being a different style of video, you still enjoy it, and thanks for watching. Over time, there's been plenty of different ways and challenges to play one of my most favorite games of all time, Pokemon. Whether it's nuzlocke, solo challenges, or whatever the mind can come up with, I think that nuzlockes have been probably my most favorite way to play the game. Across many generations of many different games, playing Pokemon as a nuzlocke adds such a diverse way of strategy and enjoyment. You kind of feel more connected and invested on which Pokemon you get and on how they handle in battle. So what if Pokemon were only able to use moves that match their type? That would make more sense, right? Like, think about it. Some Pokemon are really good, not just because of their stats and their typing, but some Pokemon are really good because they can learn just about every type of move in the game. Actually, most Pokemon would be pretty cooked if they couldn't learn coverage moves. So, that just makes me wonder, would some Pokemon become better or worse because of their limited moves they could use? Would it make dual-type Pokemon even better? Well, we're gonna find out by doing a Nuzlocke challenge of Pokemon Leaf Green, where my Pokemon can only use moves that match their type. And if you like the video, leave a like and comment on which Pokemon you think would be best or worse if they could only use moves that match their type. Alright, let's get it. Alright, so here we are, Pokemon Leaf Green, but only stab moves. Same type attack bonus, in case you didn't know. But really what that means is just my Pokemon can only use moves that match their type. So I kind of wanted to do a little bit of like a hybrid recording for this video, a little bit of like kind of reaction to me going back and playing it, so we can kind of get that kind of live feeling a bit together. But with a little bit of also just kind of like recording over it, so you can also know where my mind was during this challenge. So hope this will be enjoyable for everyone. So just a little bit of the rules and stuff that I do for my Nuzlocke. If Pokemon faints, I can no longer use it. That Pokemon is ineligible or considered dead. But like I also limit my Pokemon's level. I do use rare candies, as you can see, but I do not overlevel that Pokemon past the gym leader's ace. And then the next rule is, in order for me to catch Pokemon, I can only catch Pokemon that I see on the first encounter of each route, and no items in battle, and that's pretty much it. Other than, the challenge, only my Pokemon can use the same type of moves that match the type that they are. So it's pretty simple. Electric types can only use electric type moves, so on and so forth. I will skip ahead on some of the video, so it's not like a super long Pokemon challenge. And I do play on a little bit of speed up because it takes quite a while to record. So for my starter Pokemon, I decided to go with Bulbasaur. I just wanted to get that early advantage on the dual typing, having access to grass and poison moves, and just the stalling potential that Bulbasaur has. He can really heal up my team. I'm gonna have to be doing a lot of switching with a lot of my battles, and it's gonna be a challenge to attack with super effective damage, so I figured he would be a good fit on any team. I also leveled him so he can gain some moves to be able to attack. Brock is the first gym leader with rock Pokemon at max level 14, so Bulbasaur is a perfect choice, and him at level 10 gives me a pretty easy first rival. He has a serious nature, so no stat gain. I kind of consider myself average when it comes to my Pokemon knowledge, so don't ask me about EVs, but he should be enough to get me through Brock because he's a grass type. I do catch some encounters, so comment if you think you can guess the nickname theme. I do catch a goated Rattata plus attack Lonely Nature. I also find a Mankey, which is great. It's just more coverage for Brock. And I do also get my Pidgey. I get a bit unlucky when I run into Caterpie in Viridian Forest. I mean, look at this. Even as a fully evolved Butterfree, it naturally only learns 2 moves it can attack with in Gen 3. I was really hoping for like a Weedle, but you get what you get, I guess. And I'll be surprised if it comes out of the box. So now that we have everyone catched up to the level cap, we face Brock. There's not really much to talk about here. We open with Mankey, and it only takes a couple karate chops to take down his first Pokemon. And when the Onix comes out, it does survive a low kick, but it hits us with a not very effective Rock Tomb, and we still finish him off. So now, that marks the first gym off the board, which brings us to Misty as our next challenge. It does raise the level cap to 21, and I'm not too worried because we still have our grass type, and we also get some new encounters. I find a Spearow, another dual normal type, which I think is really good because normal type moves are probably the most common in the game. I also find a Zubat in Mount Moon, another great resistant dual type for grass and fighting Pokemon, and I get my first ground type with Sandshrew. I really don't think that we're going to have too much of a challenge with some of the earlier fights with this Pokemon challenge. We do face our rival one more time before we go and fight Misty. He leads with his Pidgeotto, which can be a little of a nuisance with Sand Attack, but we make quick work of it with a combination of our own flying type Pokemon. I'm really worried about his Charmander. We don't have anything to resist fire types, and if we knock it into Blaze range, it could lead to an early reset. I decided to use Whirlwind to try to get it to come out sooner, while most of my Pokemon are at full HP, and it works. I don't think I've ever used that move before, but we're still in a tough spot because our only ground type doesn't learn any good moves till later in the game. I decide that spamming Sand Attack would be the best way to win the fight. It's a bit cheesy, but hey, it's legal, but the move is only for ground types. I don't want to risk my only ground type, so I figured my best damage would be sending in Mankey, and it pays off with a critical hit Karate Chop leading to a one-shot. It's some pretty scary stuff at the beginning facing the rival, because I'm sure if that didn't kill, the Charmander just sweeps my entire team, but now that he's an afterthought, the rest of his team is pretty light work from there. So hopefully the rival doesn't give me any issues in the future, but he will eventually have a Charizard, and that will become a problem if I don't find a counter for it soon. Prepping for Misty, I get unlucky failing to catch an Abra because it teleports away, wasting my encounter, but there's still some luck on my side because I get a Bellsprout on the next route for a backup grass type. It does increase my advantage against Misty, who only has 2 water types, but now that my starter is an Ivysaur, with the combination of Leech Seed and Vine Whip, it's just too much for her, and it solos her entire team. So with Misty being done, I feel confident enough to make a boss rush for the next gym leader. Lieutenant Surge is an electric type specialist, and my only real counter to him is my 1 ground type Sandshrew. It's going to be a bit of a challenge because Sandshrew doesn't get many great ground moves naturally till much later in the game. Along the way, I do get 2 additional encounters, a Meowth, which is great, a normal physical attacker with a great normal type move pool, and I also catch a Drowsy, which I think is an amazing encounter. It learns so many useful Psychic type moves. Hypnosis and Dream Eater is going to put in some serious work for sure.
Here's where I have to take on the rival on the SS Anne in order to get to Lieutenant Surge. And now he has a Charmeleon. Fortunately, we have our Raticate, which hits insanely hard with Hyper Fang, and it almost one-shots his lead Pidgeotto. I decide to keep him in, and it pays off by being too much for his follow-up Pokemon. When the Kadabra comes out, I wanted to bring my own Psychic type so I could have him out when the Charmeleon makes his debut, but I also want to conserve some health on him, so I make a quick detour to Spearow to take out the physically frail Psychic type. Now here is where I have to be careful. I have no water types to resist the Ember, and if I do enough damage to knock him into Blaze, I can practically kiss the run goodbye. I managed to get a little chip damage in before going to the Mankey, hoping that I would get a repeat of the previous fight. It's not looking so good though, because he gets burned, and burnt Pokemon makes their physical damage do half. Now, here's where I have to take a risk. Do I risk my only fighting type Pokemon to see if he can push through? But since it is my only fighting type, I decide to make the gamble with Raticate. It is probably the most frail, but it definitely would hit the hardest in return. I decide to send it on a 90% accurate Hyper Fang, and we get the win with no deaths. Let's go. It was a seemingly riskless fight, maybe as some would say. But now we have all that we need to be able to cut through the tree, blocking the path to the upcoming gym leader. And I decide now it would be a good time to evolve Sandshrew to Sandslash. And I do use my only Dig TM. It will be the only damage move that he can use, so hopefully he can MVP us past the electric type Pokemon. So now it's time for Surge. Beating him will open us to the mid-game, giving us a lot of extra encounters. If you've made it this far into the video, big thanks for watching. I hope it's been enjoyable so far, but it's no time for sentiments. It's time to get this bread. I'm a little worried about Sandslash being able to solo. He's going to be slower than all of Surge's Pokemon. And since Dig is my highest damage, it's going to take more than 2 turns to KO all of his Pokemon. The Voltorb does get a little bit of chip damage on us, but we shrug it off. The next 2 Pokemon is what has me worried, because they both know Double Team. For those who don't know, Double Team is an extremely annoying move that ups the evasiveness by 1 stage. And Dig takes 2 turns to hit. This could spiral really easily, really fast. I managed to connect the first Dig on the Pikachu, so we put an end to that really fast. But here's where my luck starts to run out. My Sandshrew did get paralyzed because Pikachu has the ability Static, which has a 30% chance to inflict the condition on contact. That is super sketchy. I was prepared by equipping a Cherry Berry, which cures the status, but that's only for 1 time, and Raichu has the same ability. Plus, the Raichu scored a critical hit on its first turn. Surge is definitely going to create some issues. He went for Double Team on his next turn, and I missed the first attack. Oh god, here we go. I know he's going to use that move multiple times, but my options are limited. I don't have any unavoidable attacks, and if I switch my Pokemon, I open myself to getting hit by his electric moves. This is my only ground type that is immune, and I just have to watch in despair turn after turn, missing my attacks as he continues to select Double Team after Double Team. But here is where my GOAT makes it through. Somehow he connects and he clutches the battle with a 1-hit KO. Getting paralyzed at the end of the fight, if that didn't one-shot, oh man, I don't even want to think about it. But I'm so happy that he made it through. Another riskless fight. Let's freaking go. So you can imagine I'm feeling pretty confident right now. We've made it to the mid-game, no deaths, and now that my level cap is at 29, I get to finally evolve a lot of my Pokemon. I'm going to skip a few of my encounters, except some major ones. My Pidgey does finally get to become a Pidgeotto, my Mankey becomes a Primate, and my Drowsy a Hypno, And out of all the encounters that I pick up, I want to make note of this gold bat. This guy's going to come in super clutch against the next gym leader. But before that, I do have to take on the rival in Lavender Town, and my team is too strong and I quickly overpower him. I do get to pick up like a couple encounters before I go and face Erica, but I just get this Vulpix, and I like Vulpix. It's a pretty solid fire type, learns a lot of good fire type moves, and it's pretty fast and high special attack. But without further ado, we all know who the main star of this Erica fight is going to be. And here's a quick flash of my team, and let's get right to Erica. I wish there was more to talk about here, but to be honest, Golbat is just a perfect type for a gym leader like Erica in a challenge like this. It really makes you think on how strong dual types can be, and it makes me think back to the days when like Pokemon Emerald first came out and Game Freak was really pushing the bar on making so many dual types. I loved it as a kid. It was one of my favorite Pokemon games growing up. I did a run of a stab-only Pokemon Emerald a very long time ago, and it was very brutal. So if you want to check that out, here's the link for it, and I'll leave that in the description also. But it also makes me think on how common some types are, and about how some types of Pokemon really fit a specific role. Grass types get a lot of status afflicting moves like Stun Spore, Poison Powder. Psychic types get a little bit of utility with Hypnosis and setup moves like Calm Mind. And honestly, some types are just very hard to find, like fire types and maybe some poison types that don't have a dual nature. So I don't know. If you would like to see this challenge maybe done in a different generation of Pokemon games, please feel free to let me know, and I'd love to give it a shot. So here is where I get a lot of options to think through for the next coming opponents. I stopped by the Pokemon department store to pick up a few items, and I decided to get my Eevee encounter since it's right next to me. Probably one of my favorite Pokemon lines in all of Pokemon, but I'm not going to evolve it just yet, just in case I need a specific type for some coverage later down the road. However, I did decide to not delay my Weeping Bell evolution. Victory Bell is a very strong third stage Pokemon, so it's nice to have that on the team. I also catch a Voltorb in the Rocket hideout, and to be honest, Giovanni wasn't really that much of a threat now that my Mankey is now a Primate. I am skipping over a few encounters just to really save some time. Most of them are really just backups or cannon fodder in case I lose a few Pokemon on the way. I already kind of have an idea of what I want to use for the Elite Four, but here are some good ones to mention, like this Snorlax that I catch on the Fisherman's Path and a Krabby that I get on the route right next to it. So now it's time for Koga, the poison type gym leader. My team is a bit more diverse this time, with a few extra faces, a Ghastly, now Haunter, that I caught in the Pokemon Tower, and a Geodude, now a Graveler, that I found in Rock Tunnel. He does put up a little bit more of a fight than the last gym leader, but we have a Hypno with an amazing move pool. It knows Psychic, Hypnosis, and it also has Dream Eater to help it recover some HP. Koga does immediately go to the Muck, which is probably his biggest threat, but our Hypno is hitting really hard and getting very good luck with his moves, and it's too much for him to handle. So now most of the rest of his Pokemon are pretty weak. It goes down to a few couple Psychics here and there, and the Weezing I'm not too much worried about because it also falls to a one-hit Psychic. Man, we really are boss rushing through this middle part of the game. So here is where I made a little bit of a mistake. And a little spoiler, it almost cost me the run. And you'll find out why pretty soon. Pokemon Green gives you the ability to do gym leaders out of order. And normally you're supposed to face Sabrina, who has the same level cap as Koga. But me, haven't playing this game in a very long time, I overlooked where Sabrina's gym would be, along with getting lost, and where to go to next. So naturally, I encountered Blaine's gym, and I leveled my Pokemon up to match with him. And I'll allow it for it to happen, and I'll show you how I played the gyms in the order that I did it in. But it does throw off my party when I eventually have to go face Sabrina and the fights around her. I won't be able to use my best mons because they will be over leveled, and you'll find out pretty soon on how it got things to be very scary. I'm sure all of this happened because I wanted to backtrack to pick up some extra items and some encounters. I went to Seafoam Island to get a Slowpoke, and for some reason I was really thinking that I wanted Aerodactyl as my fossil Pokemon. I thought that having a dual rock/flying Pokemon would be great for dealing with my rival's Charizard. And I was originally going to go with Horsey, thinking that I would be able to get a Kingdra, but I forgot to enable trade evolution, so that plan was just down the drain. Here's a look at my box so you can see what all my options are. But with that all being said, we'll skip to Blaine and see how it went. So Blaine was pretty straightforward. I decided to bring a lot of Pokemon that I found that has high special defense. Finding a Grimer in the Pokemon Mansion was really great for that, and I decided that Dugtrio would also be good to bring just in case I need a Pokemon with a bit more speed and super effective damage. I also have to be a bit careful because he does have 2 Pokemon with the ability Intimidate, which lowers my attack by 1 stage. So after taking out the first Growlithe, I made a switch to my own fire type, who has the ability Flash Flyer, my Ninetales. It's an awesome ability because it makes it immune to damage and it absorbs it and boosts its power. But Ninetales is only here for pivot for Snorlax. He's probably my biggest tank, and we don't want him to get burned because we want to conserve HP and that chip damage would kinda suck. Blaine's Ponyta is going for Bounce instead, which could be annoying because it could inflict paralysis, but everything is going according to plan when I manage to hit him with Yawn, and both Bounce and Yawn take 2 turns to activate, so this will give me a free switch to Slowbro, who should be able to sweep from here. I set up an Amnesia, upping my already high special defense, but from there Surf should do the job. It did take a couple extra turns for me to actually hit Ponyta with Surf because of the speed tie, but here's where I think Blaine probably turned on his hacks. He manages to get 2 bite flinches in a row before I can even deal any damage, putting my Slowbro at risk. But I'm not too worried, I do have Tentacruel in the back to clean up with Surf from there. And his last Pokemon, Rapidash, just goes down to another Surf, so that marks Blaine, and now we can backtrack to Sabrina. So I won't waste much of your time going over the footage of me being lost in Kanto, trying to figure out where to go next. I did end up traveling to the different islands where I picked up a couple encounters, a Machop and an extra fire type, Ponyta. I did find myself taking on the Rocket Hideout in Silph Cove, and here is where my rival is waiting for me, and it's time to face that dreaded Charizard that I've been constantly worrying about. So since he opens with Pidgeot, I figured Graveler would be my strongest lead. It pays off, taking it down with a few Rock Blasts, and he eventually decides to go for his Grass type as a follow-up. And we make a few changes of our own, and eventually we send out our Fearow, and we get a one-shot with Drill Peck. And it pays off because we get a double kill on the following Alakazam. This fight is a good example of how we have to always face the decision of staying in, hoping we can power our way through, or switching to a Pokemon with a more favorable matchup. This fight is tough though. Skipping over Sabrina really screwed us over. I figured it would be fair to lower the level cap back down to 43 so the fights around her aren't easy, and this gives my rival an advantage because I have to face him with a bunch of backup Pokemon. So doing a couple changes with a combination of Pidgeot and Persian, I do manage to take out the Gyarados, trying to conserve HP for the Charizard.
I'm already thinking that this fire lizard is not going to go down without taking a few of my mons down with it. So I tried to lower its accuracy with one flash, and I prayed that I'd be able to inflict a status with secret power, but it's all for nothing when I go down to a crit flamethrower. I'm very frantic here after losing my first Pokemon, and I come to the decision that maybe it's best to just throw a bunch of high damaging attackers at him to try to brute force my way to the win. It does seem to want to get the speed control, but for some reason the rival throws going for Smokescreen afterwards, and my rodent gets lucky and doesn't miss his attack and managed to get the win. This is definitely the best outcome. It would have been nice to not lose my Persian, but I mean, hey, we got the win and let's move on. I will face Giovanni before I go and fight Sabrina, but on the way I do pick up a Lapras, a great type to pick up, a dual water and ice type, and it's a very big tank, a lot of useful moves, a great addition to the team. I switched my team up just a little bit using that Kingler that I picked up because Giovanni has mostly ground types. But I mean, hey, I don't think Giovanni is going to be that big of a issue, and the Kingler starts off very strong, taking down the Nidorino and just a few serves. He's in a great position for the next Pokemon to come out, the Nidoqueen, who actually has that ground typing, and Surf doesn't actually do as much damage that I was hoping that it would do. And the Kingler does get poisoned, and I figured this might be a good time to switch and give him some backup. I decide to go for a Pidgeot because, I mean, I don't want to get hit like by an earthquake or anything, and the Nidoking was very low, but unlucky, the Pidgeot gets poisoned too, and here's where his team gets a little bit easier. The Rhydon is not much of a threat. My Parasect knows grass type moves and just gets a one-shot, but really I'm worried about the Kangaskhan. Since I do have the Parasect out, I decide to try to go for some status moves, and I managed to hit a Spore on him, putting him to sleep. And I figured the same strategy would work for Giovanni that I did for the rival. Throw out one of my highest damaging attackers, but it doesn't pay off to really the advantage that I was looking for when the Kangaskhan wakes up on turn 1. I do have Graveler on my team as well to hopefully resist a lot of the moves. So maybe Graveler is the one to carry us to a win, but he doesn't really hit that hard with Rock Blast. So I decide to go for the dice roll with Magnitude. Magnitude 7 is a good start, but we really want that Magnitude 10, and we do get it, and it knocks him out, and now we can move on to Sabrina and finally progress through the story. So even though we're using a bunch of backup Pokemon for Sabrina, I don't really think that she's that much of an issue. Since her team is mostly physically frail, we bring a lot of the attacking Pokemons that have the higher physical attack, and I mean, we don't really have anything to counter her psychic types. So really, we're just hoping that, Raticate, probably the MVP of the run, can just push us through. We do make sure we have like a bunch of setup stuff because she does have like confusion with Mr. Mime and the Venomoth. That might be an issue if we hit ourselves with a lot of our attacks. But really, it probably just comes down to switching to our tanks with Lapras and hoping that my other Pokemon can bring us to the win. She opens with a Kadabra, which I'm not really worried about, and my Raticate does outspeed it and one-shot it, and now here comes the Mr. Mime. This one I'm a little worried about because he is going to manage to live an attack, and she uses her Hyper Potion to get him back to full HP. But I mean, our Raticate is slamming, so it gets through him pretty easily too after he does set up a barrier. So that barrier is what I'm worried about. My physical attackers won't hit as hard, so I go for the switch, and he does hit us with the Supersonic. He does also have super effective moves against us with that Gust, but the Parasect is pushing through as well. He manages to hit the Spore, and we waste a full heal from Sabrina, which I didn't know she had. But now that Dodrio is out,
It's a very fast, very hard-hitting attacker, and he outspeeds, hits both drill pecks, and boom, she's done. So now this just leaves our rematch with Giovanni. And now our Pokemon has able to reach a new level cap, and we can get our starters back in the lobby. Our new level cap is 50, and I'm not really worried about Giovanni either. He's just one more gym leader until we get to fight our rival one more time, and then we can go for the Elite Four. And now that we're bringing Venusaur is probably a S tier Pokemon in a challenge like this. And I really do think that Venusaur is just going to sweep through most of his team. He opens with a Rhydon, and it's just completely destroyed by grass moves, and I outspeed. It's a one-shot. Let's go on to the next. And he decides to go for Dugtrio. Here I'm a little worried about because it does have Earthquake, and it might be faster than me. But since I have a Pokemon that is immune to ground-type damage, with the special ability Levitate, and it also is immune to the Slash and normal moves that the Dugtrio has, I completely wall off this Pokemon and I can take him out without having any worries either. I really don't have any idea why Giovanni decided to use his Hyper Potion here. He can attack me, and to be honest with you, Haunter is probably a really good Pokemon for his entire gym. I mean, he's Ghost and Poison types, so he's going to be immune to a lot of the normal damage. He's going to resist any of the Poison type moves that Giovanni might have, and with him being a ground type specialist, I mean, he's kind of defenseless. So I decided to keep Haunter in and honestly just send it on the damage that he's able to provide with Shadow Ball, and he gets pretty lucky. He hits a critical hit on his first attempt for the Nidoqueen, and I mean, we just keep sending it back, and maybe Haunter was the Giovanni counter instead of Venusaur. His next Pokemon is Nidoking, who unfortunately for him has the same issues that the Nidoqueen has. Can't hit us and doesn't really do that much damage with Poison Sting. So really, we can just kind of speed this thing through. His last Pokemon is a Rhyhorn, not a Rhydon. I've probably been saying that wrong the entire video. But yeah, I mean, Rhyhorn is just not really a strong Pokemon. I just send in Lapras just so we can just make a quick work of him, and we now can move forward to the rival, who honestly is probably the biggest challenge in the entire run. So here we are, the last rival before the final challenge. And to be honest with you, I'm very nervous about this fight. He has a lot stronger Pokemon. I decided to keep my level cap at 50, so I'm not too much stronger than the Charizard that he has. Mostly we're depending on Tentacruel here to have enough HP to take out that Charizard, and I forgot that he opens with Pidgeot, and I unfortunately led with my Victory Bell. But my Tentacruel is an absolute monster. Lucky critical hit on the first hit, getting a one-shot. He sends out the Alakazam, so I decide to send in my own Psychic type as well, and I kind of get played because he sets up a Calm Mind. I figured that I might just be able to go for just a Hypnosis and maybe a Dream Eater combo just to kind of stall him out, but I mean, I do want to take him out pretty fast, so maybe switching to Dugtrio is better, and hitting him with an Earthquake does manage to almost get a one-shot for me. So he does sleep for one extra turn, and I clean him up with a second Earthquake, and he sends out the Execute. I'm prepared for a lot of the different types that he has, bringing one specific Pokemon to counter it. He goes for Execute, and my Rapidash, he is going second because of the paralysis, but I mean, he doesn't really hit that hard, even with Solar Beam, and he sends out Rhyhorn, which we know how this is going to go. I have to decide here. Do I want to take the Rhyhorn out with a Pokemon that's going to be a bait for the Charizard? And I decide that that might be the best fit. I decide to go with Victory Bell, so when the Charizard comes out, I can kind of predict what move he's going to use as his first attack. So now, here we go. Here comes the Charizard. I decide to go for a switch. I'm predicting a flamethrower, and Hypno has the highest SP defense. It still hurts really hard, and he does manage to not take 2 of them actually. He gets nailed by a critical hit and just gets owned. So now the Charizard is going almost on a rampage. I hit him with a Surf, but it's not enough, and it hits him into that Blaze range that I've really been worried about. And the Charizard is faster than me. So I think I have to go for another sack here. I decide to look through all my different options to see who is the fastest Pokemon here. And I mean, it just kind of comes down to just me sending something at it. And I decide to go with Rapidash for an incoming death. But for some reason, he goes for Wing Attack. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. He hits another Wing Attack and it just knocks me out because he was too low. And I'm hoping that Primeape can live an attack here. But, I mean, there's the Blaze boosted Flamethrower. And this Charizard is very fast. And I think he basically outspeeds all of my Pokemon. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, why don't I just go for Dugtrio? And he's clearly faster. But don't forget, this is the same type attack challenge. Dugtrio cannot hit this Charizard. He only can use ground type moves. So the only person that can hopefully get us through without a wipe is unfortunately Tentacruel, and it's not looking good. He's very low. So honestly, I'm preparing for a wipe screen. But Charizard, he goes for Wing Attack, and the Tentacruel lives with 3 HP, hits a Surf back, and knocks down the Fire Tyrant. The Fire Lord is down. And fortunately, we have some HP saved with the Victory Bell. So when the Gyarados comes out, I mean, hey, I'm big smiling here. The Hydro Pump does essentially nothing. And I just have to just whittle this Gyarados down and eventually take him out. He does put up a little bit of a fight using Rain Dance and Hydro Pump, and maybe a crit probably would have killed me there. But, I mean, hey, we had enough HP to get through, and we're going on to the Elite Four. So, if you've made it this far, I just want to say big thanks for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I would really appreciate a like and, you know, maybe some comments here and there on what type of challenges you want me to do next. You know, I haven't played any of really much of the modded Pokemon games, and I'd love to do a challenge like that for some of the modded games if they are truly actually a little bit harder. So, I mean, hey, if you want to see me power through those, you know, comment down and let me know which Pokemon game you want me to do. And if you like the video, you know, leave that like. Hopefully, you know, you liked it enough to subscribe, and I'll try to get some more videos like this out on my channel. So, all right, let's do it. Let's go get the Elite Four and try to get this dub.
So our first member of the Elite Four is Lorelei, the Ice type specialist. Most of her Pokemon are also Water type. This is why I wanted to go with Jolteon for my Eevee evolution. I figured it would make the battles against Lorelei a lot easier. She opens with the Dugong, and we get a very strong start, getting a crit on our first Thunderbolt. I could have probably went for the double knockout against her Cloyster, but for some reason I decided to do a few pivots through Lapras and Snorlax. I think my original plan was to set up Rain Dance and sweep with Jolteon using Thunder, which would make it 100% accurate. But Cloyster just goes for Hail again, prolonging my setup. I decided to reset my line by putting it to sleep with Snorlax and go back to Lapras to set up Rain Dance, and it pays out. Because Yawn takes 2 turns for it to activate, it activates when my Lapras comes out, giving me a free turn to set up Rain Dance and to switch back to Jolteon. This is the perfect setup now. I have Jolteon in, Rain is set up, and I one-shot with Thunder. I think this was the right thing to do in the end because most of her Pokemon have very high special defense, like her Slowbro for example, but we'll never know if it was truly needed because Jolteon scores another crit with an opening move. Here's where some of my Pokemon knowledge gets me in trouble. I end up risking a crit on my carry when Lapras hits me with a massive Surf. but it kind of pays out. I get lucky. We get a paralysis, and I think it doesn't really matter because if she doesn't heal, which she doesn't do here, I would have 2-shot with Thunderbolt anyways. This leaves her with only Jinx. It does get a little annoying because she does set up 2 statuses on us with Sleep and Attraction, but it can't do that much damage when we switch to Lapras because we double resist her Ice Punch. I wait out the Sleep and try to chip it down with Surf. I'm also a bit unsure what her 4th move is. I'm a bit afraid if her 4th move is Psychic, but I don't think that it might be. She's just going for Ice Punch over and over again, and I mean, the damage is starting to rack up, but I mean, we just kind of just whittle her down with Surf, and I think that I can start doing a little bit of switching so I can just speed up this fight a little bit faster. I risk it and I throw out my Muck, and she goes for a full heal. And I mean, this Jinx is just starting to get super annoying. She just puts me to sleep again, and she just goes for Ice Punch, and my Muck, I have to swap him in for Snorlax. And it's just the same repeat of the same thing over and over again. I decide to use Protect to see if I can get out some of her PP and maybe she can miss a Lovely Kiss, but she just sets up back both status moves on us and just starts going to work with Ice Punch again. And I think that at this point, the Jinx is starting to get the best of me. We do manage to hit through the status and hit a massive body slam, and it just uses another full restore from her. And if we switch too many times, our Pokemon are going to get at risk of getting knocked out because of the spikes damage. I decide to risk maybe another crit and go for another Surf for her, and I mean, now it's just starting to get worse. I have to throw out one of my Pokemon that is weak to her ice type moves to hopefully get some chip damage with Leech Seed. And it pays out. She prioritizes Lovely Kiss, and maybe we can try to put her to sleep on our own. I do think that we would survive a singular Ice Punch, but it finally connects and it does massive damage. I risked another critical hit, and going for Synthesis is just a misplay, and I lose my Venusaur. So now, I mean, I have a safe switch to Dodrio, and I just take it out with Drill Peck, and we finally knock down the Ice-type Demon. Maybe that could have been played a bit better, but hey, she's down. We can move on to the next gym leader. So now that we have a couple Pokemon down on our Elite Four team, Bruno, my plan for Bruno would have been easier if Venusaur was alive, but I still have Lapras, so knocking down his first Onix is pretty easy, and I get a one-shot. But here's where things starts to get a little bit more complicated. When the Hitmonchan comes out, I do want to go to Dodrio because he should be able to outspeed and sweep his entire team, but I was a little afraid of the Hitmonchan having some rock-type moves, so that's why I'm glad that I brought Muck, because it gives us some resistance to his fighting-type Pokemon. So we decide to go for Toxic, and we avoid a counter as his first move, and that's when I start setting up with Acid Armor. And it ends up paying out because if he goes for counter, we just get a free turn to up our defenses, and if he actually does attack us with Sky Uppercut, it doesn't really do that much damage. So here I'm just kind of stalling him out a little bit, letting the toxic damage build up, and then eventually I get to knock him out with Sludge Bomb. So then up next, he sends in his other Onix, and here I probably should have stayed in because his Earthquake might not do that much damage. Onix is a very terrible Pokemon, but I decide to just use Dodrio to bait out the Earthquake. He goes for Double Edge on the switch for Lapras. It doesn't do that much damage, even with his follow-up Earthquake, and we just get another one-shot with Surf. So now it just leaves his Hitmonlee and his Ace Machamp, and I was a little surprised that the Ace didn't come out. The Hitmonlee did come out first. So I just do the same plan that I did with Hitmonchan. I go over to Muck to hopefully set up some Acid Armor, and maybe this is where I was making a couple mistakes. I should probably be attacking here because Slush Bomb might two-shot his Hitmonlee, and him going for Mega Kick just gives him opportunities to get a crit on me and knocking me out. So, I mean, now that I've taken too much chip damage on Muk, I end up risking a crit on the Dodrio instead, but then I just outspeed and get a unneeded crit to kill the Hitmonlee. And this part is where I realized where I messed up. I forgot to level my Pokemon. So then this is where those rare candies come in. As you can see, his ace is 2 levels higher than mine, and I mean, I'm just stuck here using a Drill Peck that probably could have one-shot him, and he ends up going for Rock Tomb that could have missed, and he knocks out my Flying type. And now it's getting a little scary. Here I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's gonna heal, but he goes for Cross Chop, and thank God he misses. So I end up getting a Yawn on him and putting him to sleep. And I was questioning my damage for Snorlax to see if he was actually going to kill him, and I was afraid of him waking up on turn 1. So I go over to Muk to hopefully hit a Sludge Bomb. He does end up waking up very early and hits a Cross Chop and knocks him out. So then now, I mean, since he's pretty low, I have a final Pokemon that will outspeed and fortunately get the knockout with Thunderbolt. So maybe Bruno could have been a little bit better if I didn't have some very bad Lorelei, but hey, he's done. We can finally move on to the next Elite Four member. So for my Agatha, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but I just did not have high hopes having only 3 Pokemon, and one of my Pokemon is honestly useless against her. They're all mostly ghost types, and he can only use normal type moves. So really I just get the only use I can get out of him for setting up a Yawn on turn 1, and hopefully with the combined power of Lapras and Jolteon I can get through the fight. So he did get a couple double teams set up on the first few turns, and eventually I managed to get my Rain Dance and Thunder set up, and I'm hoping that this will give me enough damage to one-shot the Gengar. But I mean, Gengar has pretty good special defense, and him setting up more double teams is going to be a lot scarier. So Agatha does use a full restore to get her Gengar out of the red, and I go for Thunderbolt instead. And it looks like it's going to be a 2-shot, but now the double teams are starting to cause a little bit of issues. So I'm thinking about using Shockwave, but I really just go for the gamble, and it pays out. We managed to connect, and down goes her lead Pokemon. For some reason, she does send out Golbat next, so I just kind of just take that as a 2 for the price of 1, and we just one-shot the Golbat with Thunderbolt. And here's where some problems start to come in with the Arbok. It knows Earthquake, so I can't have Jolteon out there, but for some reason it goes for Sludge Bomb, dealing a fair amount of damage and getting a poison on the first use of it, which is very, very unlucky. The follow-up Sludge Bomb does do a decent amount of more damage to us and puts us in the red with the combination of poison damage, but we managed to get a Yawn on it, and we use Protect, and we get the full use out of Snorlax's HP, and we switch in for Lapras. Now the Arbok is asleep, and I'm a little confused here on if I should go for a Rain Dance setup or if I should just start attacking him, but I do think that attacking is the right move to go for, so I decide to go for Surf instead of setting up Rain Dance, and he wakes up and uses a Screech on us, which is not good at all, because that allows his follow-up Sludge Bomb to deal massive damage to us, and it also poisons us instead. I think that going for Ice Beam is better than Surf here because it gives us the chance to freeze, but if we take another Sludge Bomb, we are out of there. But we do get lucky. He goes for Iron Tail, which has low accuracy. He misses, and we get to knock him out with Jolteon. So here's where my luck really started to pay in. My Pokemon are pretty much on death's door. If I get slept, or if Jolteon takes too much damage, we can knock this run out, and I essentially need Lapras and Jolteon to hopefully find a win condition for the game. We do get lucky. He misses a first hypnosis, and he misses another hypnosis as well as we get a couple thunderbolts off into him. Agatha does use another full restore, and we decided to go for shockwave to do a little bit of chip damage. But at this point we're like, okay, should we just send it and just go for thunder? I do decide that that's the play to go for. It manages to connect, and it gets the amount of damage that we need to get the knockout. And we're still not out of the woods because the Haunter knows hypnosis. If we get put to sleep, it's GG from there. We decided to go for shockwave instead, and it does about a little bit more than half. He misses another hypnosis, and we've managed to get the follow-up shockwave to knock out Agatha. Very good use of our 3 Pokemon and all of our HP pools, and luck is on our side for this. So fortunately we do still have the Lapras, and hopefully that'll help us sweep through Lance with all of his dragon types. And we just need to keep this Jolteon alive, because the Jolteon is what we need to take out the Charizard at the end. So good stuff, good stuff. Let's see how Lance pays out. So for my Lance fight, it's pretty straightforward. Try to keep Lapras as healthy as possible for her to sweep. Leading with Jolteon is the correct decision, because I can just use Thunderbolt to one-shot his lead Gyarados, and that should set me up for some good one-shots and matchups for my Lapras. He decides to go for Dragonair, and I am a little bit worried here. If he goes for Thunder Wave, that could make some problems for my Lapras switch, but I do think that Lance kind of threw here. He goes for Dragon Rage instead of any of his other abilities, and on his follow-up turn he goes for Safeguard. So that just gives me a free use of Ice Beam to one-shot his Dragonair. When the Aerodactyl comes out, I know that I'm going to need to do a little bit of steering, because I don't think that Lapras is going to be able to take out Aerodactyl alone. It does know Ancient Power, and it's going to get the same type attack bonus from it, with the chance to boost all of his stats. So I decide that a pivot is going to be good here, and I go for Snorlax to hopefully set up a Sleep with Yawn and pray for no boost, hopefully. I did forget that the Dragonair did set up Safeguard, so I just end up wasting a turn. So I decide to stall out a little bit, use Protect to get a few more uses of AP out, and I'm like, hey, I'll just go for Body Slam. That might inflict some paralysis. And Snorlax powers through with a massive crit. That's honestly the damage that I was looking for, and Safeguard comes off at a perfect time. We managed to avoid one more crit from an AP, and he doesn't get the boost, so that allows us to get a safe Protect and allow for the Sleep to take effect. So that'll give me a good switch to Lapras. Hopefully he doesn't wake up on turn 1, and he doesn't. And now I just can pray for another Sleep turn. He does Sleep for one more turn, and I get a knockout with Surf. And then from here, the last of his Pokemon are all Dragon types. As long as I don't get any random status from the Dragonair, Ice Beam should be able to take out the Dragonair in one shot, and also his pseudo-legendary Dragonite, since it takes 4 times damage from Ice Beam. So he does manage to set up another Safeguard, like, Lance, what are you doing here? You should be going for damage. So I get that one shot, and then the Dragonite comes out. I should live any of his attacks, and crit is not very threatening here, and Ice Beam is enough damage to fully one-shot his lead Pokemon. So yeah, most of the Elite Four done with only a few Pokemon. We've actually made it to the champion. Let's see if our last survivors are strong enough to make it through. So I'm very excited here. If you've made it this far, this is awesome. You are the best, and let's bring it home. So for the Pokemon champion, I'm gonna slow it down a little bit, because I just want to take an extra moment to thank you again for watching the video. It's been a super long time since I've been able to get a Pokemon video out on this channel. There's been some other games that I've been playing that's been consuming my life, so life of a gamer. But yeah, I'm hoping that this year, or wrapping this year out, I can get a lot more videos up of a lot of different games that I like to play. But yeah, let's see how the champion goes. So he does open with Pidgeot, and hey, we've got Jolteon here. He's going to be our MVP for this fight, and because we're going to need him to take out the Charizard. He does get a one-shot on the Pidgeot with Thunderbolt, which ended up being very, very fortunate. The Rhydon does come out, and we did have Lapras managing to make it through. So you know what the plan is here. We're going to go to Lapras, and she's going to use Surf and one-shot the Rhydon. So we do take a little bit of incoming damage from the Earthquake, and it hit pretty hard. But fortunately, we can outspeed. We don't have to worry about any other upcoming damage from his Rock-type Pokemon. And it goes down, and we look for the next opponent that he's going to send out. He goes for Executor, which makes sense. He's going to have super effective damage with grass moves. So we're going to get our Lapras out of there because he's kind of a backup plan in case our Jolteon doesn't manage to knock out the Charizard. So here's where Snorlax kind of comes in. He's also a very big MVP for this run. We do manage to tank a Giga Drain, and it doesn't really do that much damage. So we're just going to go for our usual setup. He does manage to put us to sleep before we do him. So, I mean, hey, he wins that speed. But I was prepared for it. We equipped the Chesto Berry because I knew that Snorlax was going to be my counter for Executor. And we managed to put the sleep back on him. But ours takes a little bit of extra turns to set up. So we get a free use of Protect after it. That Yawn and Protect combo is very, very good. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. That makes Snorlax a huge Pokemon for this type of challenge because those are both normal moves. No other Pokemon would be able to do that type of setup unless they learn Yawn and can learn Protect and also be a normal type. So here's where it's probably I get some decision making I get some options here. I decided to go for Lapras because I do want this Executor to go out fast, and it's a little bit of a risk because he can wake up and use some super effective damage, but he manages to sleep for a couple of extra turns. We get an Ice Beam off on him, and it should do a lot of damage. We might even get a one-shot with a crit, but he does manage to live on a Sliver, and I do know that the leader is going to heal from here, so I just managed to keep up the pressure and go for another Ice Beam. Maybe it's a damage roll and we might be able to get the one shot, or maybe we get lucky with a crit and we don't get either of those. He does manage to live again. So I'm thinking here, do I just go back to Snorlax to set back up and get me back in the same position? And I think that that's a good idea because he also might heal again here, and which he does. He does manage to waste another of his full restores, which is honestly maybe a good thing because he's not going to use that on his ace. So we have to kind of go through the same thing here again, but this time we don't have a Chesto Berry if he hits us with Sleep Powder. So this is kind of a little bit of a scout to see what moves he's going to use. He does go for the Sleep Powder and we manage to block it with Protect. And what I'm hoping for is that he doesn't use it twice in a row, but I get a little lucky. He misses his next Sleep Powder and we manage to hit Yawn on him, and this is awesome. This sets us back up in the same scenario that we were in. We can use Protect again, which will succeed because I'm not using it twice in a row, and the Executor goes back to sleep again. So here's where I should start attacking, but I mean, for some reason, this might be a misplay again. I decided to go over to Lapras to hopefully get that Ice Beam damage again and risking the Executor waking up again. That was one thing when I was noticing looking back at this run, that I took a lot of risk to try to get the win. But hey, playing like that is hopefully entertaining for you, and it was fun playing it. And I get lucky again. The Executor sleeps for the perfect amount of turns for me to get the damage off, and we knock down honestly the only kind of threat that he has to most of our party members. The next Pokemon he sends out is Alakazam, and I'm not too worried about this guy. I do have Snorlax, which has a lot of special defense, and I probably should have went straight to Snorlax immediately. I do tank a Psychic, but I'm kind of hoping that I can have Rain set up for when the Charizard comes out, because I do know that this Alakazam is going to go down pretty quickly to the physical damage from Snorlax. But I mean, I just kind of made some mistakes here. I decided to keep Lapras in. She does manage to live another Psychic, and I'm like, okay, well, at this point, maybe Lapras is just a sack. The rain is already set up, and I honestly get kind of outplayed by the champion here. He has another full restore, which is going to waste more turns of that rain dance, and it's going to probably fall off at this point whenever the Charizard comes out. I kind of get outplayed again because Alakazam went for Future Sight before he gets knocked out. So then that means at some point we're going to have to tank that damage whenever it pays out. So then he sends out his Gyarados, and now it's time for me to go for my Jolteon because he's at full HP, and I just need to make sure that the rain is set up so he can get 100% accuracy when he uses Thunder. But things are looking a little bit scary now. I decided to go for Snorlax to tank the oncoming Future Sight, and Gyarados goes for Thrash, which is probably the best move for him to use. He gets a crit on his first use of it, and the rain stops. So here's where I'm a little bit hoping that I can go back to my setup to get rain back on, but Thrash is doing a lot of damage. I'm only going to live one more after his next use, but that plan goes completely out of the window. We get hit by the Future Sight, Snorlax goes down, and I'm hoping that this will give me that opportunity for Gyarados to fall asleep here, and I'll be able to set up with Rain Dance, because that's really all that I need. But he doesn't fall asleep, the Thrash connects, and the Lapras goes down. So now it's just down to Jolteon, and hopefully it'll come to a 1v1 at the end of the day. The Gyarados does finally go to sleep, and Jolteon, I'm not really worried about it. He's just going to one-shot with Thunderbolt, so it really comes down to the wire. One-on-one, this is for all the marbles. Is the challenge actually possible to beat Leaf Green with only same type attack moves? So it really just comes down to the wire here. His Charizard does have some moves that's going to do a lot of damage with Fire Blast, and I kind of have an idea that Thunderbolt is not going to get a one-shot without a crit. So it really comes down to one of two things, or a handful of things actually. Do I live a move and get 2 uses of Thunderbolt out on the Charizard to get the one shot? Do I go for the low accurate 70% Thunder that will one shot, but if I miss, it's probably GG? Or do I try to fish for a crit with Thunderbolt and maybe just one shot from there? So we have a few lines that'll get us through this fight, but I mean, what's the nature of how I've been playing so far? We've been going for a massive gamble on every single fight, and I just decide to send it. I decide to go for Thunder and really see if it's gonna pay off. And to my surprise, the animation kicks in, the Thunder rains down on the Charizard, and we connect, and his health bar goes all the way down. We get the one shot, and we actually beat the challenge on our first attempt. Absolute craziness. It all comes down to one-to-one Pokemon. You couldn't ask for a better finish. So yeah, we get through the challenge. So big shout outs to honestly everyone that's here. The Pokemon, the viewer. Thanks so much for watching and making it to the end of this video. I hope that it was, you know, enjoyable, whether it was something that you were locked in on or even just something you throw in the background. It means a lot to me that you guys are watching, and I hope that for any newcomers or for anyone that's watching the video that you liked it enough to give like a little like or maybe some comments and let me know, you know, maybe if there's any Pokemon that you think that are gonna be better or worse if they can only use their same type attacking moves? Yeah, let me know if there's any specific Pokemon games that you'd like for me to try this challenge out on. I'm currently working on a Gen 2 run of Pokemon Heart Gold. I've never played that game all the way through, so hopefully it doesn't take nearly as long to get that video up. And there's some other gaming videos that I'd love to put up too, so shout out to some people if you've been watching some of my other content on some other games that I've been playing. But I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and peace out.